to introduce in front of you the leadership that is seated here. From my immediate left, we have the RTMC board chairperson, Mr. Zola Machavu. Next to him, we have the Deputy Minister of the Department of Transport, Ms. Sindisiwe Chikunga. Next to her, we have Minister of Transport, Dr. Blade Nzimande. Next to him, we have MEC Tikane from the Eastern Cape. Next to her, we have MEC Grant from the Western Cape. Next to him, we have MEC Ngomane from Mpumalanga. You are welcome, all of you. And we will be joined by our colleagues in Pretoria GCIS. Tseho Make will be co-sharing the session there. At the end of the reading of the statement by the Minister, we will cross over that side as well when we take questions in the second session of our media briefing. And now we'll take this opportunity to ask the Minister of Transport, Dr. Blade Nzimande, to read the report. Thank you very much. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Ishmael. I will try and stick to the statement as closely as possible, because also of the details that it has. Let me start by greeting our Deputy Minister, Sindisiwe Chikunga, and Mpumalanga MSc for Community Safety, Security and Liaison, Mr. Ngomane, Western Cape MSc for Transport and Public Works, Mr. Donald Grant, Eastern Cape MSc, Ms. Weziwe Tikane. I needed to say, by the way, Ishmael, that the DG may be joining us. It's just that he's being held up at the Portfolio Committee, because as we are having this press conference, the department is also presenting its annual performance plans to the Portfolio Committee. I was there earlier this morning. Let me also greet the chairperson of RTMC, Mr. Zola Machavu, and members of the board and the CEO present. The Deputy Director General of Roads will also be joining us. He's still at the Portfolio Committee. CEOs of other transport entities who are here, and officials from other spheres of government, distinguished members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We have emerged from what was a very difficult period. This Easter period will go down in history as a period in which we lost Umam Winnie Madikizela Mandela, champion of the poor. Soon thereafter, we also had the passing away of Ambassador George Nene and former Minister Zola Skweyiya. April has tended to be a very unkind month to those who fought for freedom. It was the same month that we lost Chrisani Solomon Mahlangu and former ANC President Oliver Tambo. We mention this because these were the people who helped to shape the democratic South Africa that we have today. And we take inspiration from them as we engage in our efforts to reduce the scourge of road crashes and fatalities in our country. Just like them, we commit ourselves that we will not be bound by hardships and setbacks, because road crashes and fatalities are a major hindrance towards the attainment of prosperity as envisaged by our forebears. Road crashes rob the country of the skills and talent required to build a prosperous nation. As you can see in that poster, road crashes are leading cause of death among South African youth. So they rob us of our young people. We recognize that there were many who died on the roads over the Easter period this year, and others were injured. On behalf of the government of South Africa, I would like to send our deepest condolences to the families and friends of those who died on our roads, and wish those who were injured a speedy recovery at home or in hospital. By the way, I do need to say that the reason why we delayed in releasing these figures was partly because of the period we covered, which I'm going to come back to now. And secondly, we also thought, let's allow the morning period for Mamuine to go past, so that then we can be able to focus properly on this important information for our country. This year we defined our Easter period differently from the previous years. Whereas we previously considered the Easter in narrow sense, focusing only on the 4 or perhaps 5 days, if you count that we start counting for traffic purposes for Thursday, before Good Friday. This year we decided to align our plans with the school holidays. As a result, 7 days were added to our program, and it ran from the 29th of March to the 9th of April 2018. This brought our campaign in line with other mass activities that take place around the Easter period. For instance, the Rand Easter Show, which is a premier mass event that takes place around this time, ended on Sunday, the 8th of April. Those of you who keep a keen interest on traveling patterns will also have noticed that there was a spike in volumes of vehicles on the roads on that Sunday, the 8th of April, as holiday makers returned to start preparations for the reopening of schools. It therefore made sense that we align our road safety activities and law enforcement operations with the traveling patterns of the population. Consequently, the preliminary report we are presenting today will cover a 12-day period instead of the ordinary 4 days. Ladies and gentlemen, there were significant events that impacted on our plans and are worth considering when releasing this report. Key among them is that there were 4 major crashes that took place in rural areas. 2 of them happened in KwaZulu-Natal, Greytown and Taylor's Holt, and the other 2 in Limpopo, Diperere village and near Mabula Lodge in the Waterfall district. Together, these 4 crashes claimed 35 lives and left 26 people injured. These crashes happen where they were least expected and on roads that do not normally experience a high number of fatal crashes. The truck drivers' strike on Monday, the 2nd of April, also added complexity in that it resulted in the total shutdown of the N3 and all alternative routes around Moy River in KwaZulu-Natal, which is in fact one of the busiest days in this period. Busiest place, sorry. This led to more than 5 hours delay for motorists who were making their way from KZN coastal areas to the central areas. Huge delays were also experienced in Polokwane, Limpopo on the same day as motorists were stuck in traffic congestion and were unable to drive out of the inner city to join the N1. The absence of Polokwane traffic police to control and direct traffic on such an occasion is a matter of serious concern, and the Road Traffic Management Corporation together with the National Road Safety Steering Committee, will have to investigate this further and ensure that it does not happen again. Ladies and gentlemen, during this Easter period, we've stopped more than 150,000 vehicles and issued close to 110 traffic fines. What stands out in analyzing the preliminary report is that road crashes affect the poor and working class disproportionately more than other groups. This Easter, there was a noticeable shift towards the rural poor who use the roads as pedestrians. The number of pedestrians affected by fatalities increased from 33.8% in 2017 to 37.3% this year. An increase was also recorded in the number of drivers killed from 20.5% in 2017 to 25.6%. Passengers were the only user group that experienced a significant decline from 43% in 2017 to 35.5% this year. Of concern is the increase in the number of young children and middle-aged individuals who died as pedestrians on the road. Children between 0 and 4 years of age recorded an increase of 4.9% from 2.6% in 2017 to 7.5% in 2018. Middle-aged individuals between the ages of 50 and 54 also recorded a sharp increase from 1.3% in 2017 to 8.4% in 2018. The preliminary report shows that the main contributory factors to road fatalities are related to human behavior, with male drivers accounting for 71.1% of fatalities and females for 24.1%. An important statistic, by the way, which shows that women are better drivers than men, despite the fact that the number of women drivers over the last decade has increased significantly in South Africa. So we have to look at what is it that our mama do better than us as men. That in itself would be an important contributor to improving road safety in our country. In 2018, human factor contributed 89.5% to the crashes as compared to the 74.3% in 2017. The number of jaywalking pedestrians killed on our roads also increased to 38% as compared to 25.2% in 2017. The report also depicts an increase in undetermined factors, which contributed 25.7% to the overall fatal crashes. Tire burst prior to accident increased by 67% as compared to the 60.0% in 2017. I'll come back to this matter later. Hit and run decreased by 16.1% in 2018 as compared to the 22.8% in 2017. Roads and environmental factors contributed 6.2% as opposed to the 19.9% recorded in 2017. It is very concerning that some unwarranted behaviors continued unabated, and this has been ably demonstrated by the successful arrest of 6,435 drivers who were caught speeding, 3,208 drivers driving unlicensed vehicles, 300 drivers without driver's licenses, 2,344 drivers without fastening of seat belts, and 1,698 drivers driving vehicles with worn tires. Amongst others, the hired speedsters were arrested for driving at 224 kilometers per hour at the N3 Hilton in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm ashamed to say this is my hometown. Don't even respect the Minister of Transport. Followed by Free State at the N3 Warden with 208 kilometers per hour, followed by Gauteng at the N12 Tom Jones in Benoni at 206 kilometers per hour. By the way, we arrest these drivers. We don't just give them tickets. We have, however, been encouraged by the behavior of the majority of motorists and all road users who showed a willingness to obey the rules of the road. There are indeed a few who are still intransigent, and many of which will be appearing in different courts all over the country to face the law. Ladies and gentlemen, we have also increased the number of vehicles impounded in all provinces as compared to the same period in 2017. 900 vehicles were impounded in Mpumalanga, followed by the Eastern Cape at 180. We generally observed an increase in the vehicles impounded in all provinces. Amongst the highlights of our campaign this year, we arrested a man for being in possession of dagga at Knysna, and another one was arrested at Brackenfell for being in possession of mandrax. 2 men were arrested on the N7 Frankdale for possessing 36 parcels of dagga. 2 people were also arrested in Knysna for hindering a traffic officer from executing his duties, and a foreign national was arrested for being in possession of a fresh rhino horn during Operation Fiela, held at Coppersdale on the N4. A huge effort was made prior and during the holiday period to reduce crashes, fatalities and injuries, and to achieve a 10% reduction. The road safety education and communication activities were implemented by the provincial departments, local municipalities, as well as transport entities focusing on pedestrian awareness, drivers' safety, passenger education, stray animal awareness, safer vehicle and alcohol awareness. Highly visible law enforcement operations were also conducted on all the major routes with a focus on drunken driving, speeding, overloading, driving without licenses, reckless and negligent driving. In order to reduce the high rate of drunken driving, law enforcement agencies conducted operations targeting areas and events where most alcohol is consumed. Due to the increase in taxi violence in KwaZulu-Natal, our operations focused on public transport in this province, that is KZN. This resulted in the traffic law enforcement agencies arresting more people for driving without permits. Despite these efforts, there was unfortunately an increase in the number of vehicles involved in fatal crashes over the extended Easter period this year compared to last year, with the total number standing at 430 compared to 349 the previous year. Light motor vehicles accounted for about 44.6% of the crashes, almost the same as last year. Bakkies or light delivery vehicles accounted for the second highest number of vehicle collisions at 21.2%. Minibuses recorded with a 1% decrease to 9%, and buses were stable at around 1.7%. Most crashes happened on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Critical routes with high accident rates were identified at the planning phase, and we intensified our traffic law enforcement operations in these areas. However, most of the crashes did not happen on those routes. The majority of crashes happened on unnamed village roads in Limpopo, as well as on the N2, N4, and R518. The most affected rural district municipalities in Limpopo are Vembe, Waterberg, Mupani, and Greater Sekhukhune. Other affected municipalities were Ekurhuleni, eThekwini, City of Tshwane, Capricorn, eHlanzeni, City of Johannesburg, City of Cape Town, Joe Qabi, Lijwele Putswa, ZV Mcawu, and Kangala. Because of these crashes, a total number of 510 fatalities were recorded from March 29 to April 9, which represent a 14% increase when compared to the 449 who died in the same period last year. The highest increases in fatalities were recorded by Northern Cape, followed by the Northwest and Limpopo. The highest decrease was recorded by Mpumalanga, followed by the Free State. The fatalities as per province are as follows: Gauteng 89, KwaZulu-Natal 111, Western Cape 34, Eastern Cape 59, Free State 27, Mpumalanga 49, Northwest 34, Limpopo 80, Northern Cape 27. Ladies and gentlemen, to redress the challenges experienced during this Easter period, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, together with all provinces, will develop a road safety plan focusing on the main contributory factors of crashes, such as pedestrians, impaired driving, dangerous driving, and occupant safety. We will align all provincial road safety plans with the National Road Safety Strategy and focus our attention on the 50 national identified hazardous locations. We will do this by also heightening the driver safety educational programs within vulnerable communities. The process of introducing the 24/7 shift has also begun in earnest, and the shift is now at different stages of implementation in provinces. The carnages experienced during this Easter period reaffirm our decision to reclassify all road traffic offences to Schedule 5 of the Criminal Procedure Act. The reclassification will ensure that our quest for a mandatory minimum sentence for drunken driving, inconsiderate, reckless, and negligent driving is realized. So beware, including journalists. Don't leave your time too late for press briefings so that you can leave on time and observe the rules of the road. We will examine the intensity of the issues regarding tire base as one of the vehicle contributory factors. We will consult with all stakeholders in the tire making industry, freight industry, and public transport industry. We're very concerned about this spike in best tires just before accidents. We are indeed disappointed by not meeting the 10% reduction in fatalities that we had set for ourselves. However, we will not lose hope. We will relentlessly continue our efforts to save lives, because as Utatu Nelson Mandela taught us, that the glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. As I conclude, let me commend the MECs, the Deputy Minister first, who is always on the road around this time, the MECs, the mayors, SALGA, traffic law enforcement officers, who, by the way, I must say, having been now on roadblocks a couple of times, my respect for traffic enforcement officers has grown tremendously. They are doing a great job under the most difficult circumstances. And their work is very dangerous. Some get run over by cars, others are shot at, kidnapped, and so on, by drivers who are committing crimes and trying to avoid being arrested. That's why one of the messages now to everybody who drives, when you get pulled on the side, don't get irritated. Just cooperate, produce your license, and produce other things that are needed, because that's in your own safety as well, actually. It's not an inconvenience, but it's a necessary intervention to ensure your own safety. I've committed myself now, each time I'm pulled on the side, I'm going to smile and fully cooperate. So also we must thank the members of the South African Police, emergency medical services, doctors and nurses who maintained high levels of visibility on the roads throughout the Easter period. A word of gratitude also goes out to all the fraternal organizations that assisted in making this huge success possible. This includes the youth, faith-based organizations, and organizations of people living with disabilities, as well as activist organizations like Unite Behind, insofar as rail safety and those issues are concerned, by the way, and other activists on this front of road safety who are playing a very important role, and with their various campaigns to raise awareness about road safety across the country. We are grateful to religious leaders who use their pulpits to preach and pray about road safety. Let me also thank the media, yourselves, for your role in promoting and publicizing our road safety initiatives and ensuring that everyone in the country is aware of their responsibility. We look forward to a continued and improved relationship with the media even further. I also wish to commend the Road Traffic Management Corporation's National Anti-Corruption Unit for their continuous efforts in dealing with bribery, fraud, and corruption. However, I want to see more results from this unit in dealing with the corruption and fraud committed at driver learner testing centers and driving schools. By the way, we have also insisted that authorities must be tough with traffic officials who take bribes. I'm told in one country that I won't mention that it's normal that when you produce your passport, we are being told that there's a page that is missing in the passport, which you must put in. Though your passport goes from page 10 to 11, they say no. There is a page missing in between there. And you know what you have to do if you have got to get through. We don't want that. We must clamp this down. And also as drivers and passengers, you must also assist us in terms of isolating those who are taking bribes, traffic enforcement officers, because they actually rubbish the good name of the many, many traffic enforcement officers who are doing a great job on our roads. For us to restore public confidence in our system, we must also clean up these driver learner testing centers and ensure they operate in an efficient and effective manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for the statement. We now shall go to the second part of our briefing, which is allocated fully to the media and the entire panelists. It's a question time. When you rise, please tell us who you are and the organization that we are representing. We'll start here in Cape Town and later we'll be joined by our colleagues in Pretoria. for the questions. I'm aware that there is Power FM that side, Jacaranda as well, and some newspapers there. So they will also be posing questions, Minister, and the panel for clarity seeking. I shall start here in Cape Town. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Only members of the media are allowed to ask questions. Yes, my chief.
Hi, Minister. My name is Bulelani from SABC. I suppose you are still new in the portfolio, but the issue of making drunk driving and reckless driving Schedule 5 offences is something that has been mentioned before by your predecessors. Can you just give us an indication how far is that process and what has caused the delay?
Thank you. Any further questions? The statement is very clear. Oh, yes, sir.
The amendment should happen in the Criminal Procedure Act.
Hi, Minister Obalo from Eyewitness News. Have you been able to quantify the effect of these road fatalities over the Easter period? I know in previous years there have been attempts to try to put a figure on how much they are costing the economy. I know that the national road to Durban did have some civil unrest where people were delayed for hours and couldn't get back to either KZN or Gauteng, that sort of thing. Can you kind of give us an idea of how it's impacting the South African economy? Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? No. Okay. Are there questions there, Tibu, in Pretoria?
Yeah, there is. We do have one hand up.
Okay. They can proceed, Tibu.
Hi, it's Yanka.
Yeah, we do have one hand up so far in Pretoria.
It's Yanka from Power 987. I don't know if I missed it, so it might be just for clarification. The number of drivers were caught drunk driving. I see there's numbers for speeding and unlicensed vehicles and so on. I might have missed it, but just for the 12-day period.
Any further questions in Tshwane? Okay, thank you.
I think we are covered for now.
Thank you very much. Minister?
Okay, it looks like it's nice being in this department. So few questions from journalists, given where I used to work before. DG, maybe I'll give you the first question once I've finished here on matters relating to Schedule 5 as to exactly where we are. I don't have that detail with me now, other than to say that I am quite determined that it should happen and not talk about it, or even the CEO of the Road Traffic Management Corporation may want to say something on that. I don't know whether there are any details that are there or studies on the impact of the economy. It's how much?
306 billion rand per year.
306 billion rands per year. Now, that is big. Other costs, by the way, on our public services. For example, the road accident fund is for all intents and purposes bankrupt. Cumulatively now it owes 221 billion rand. Also, the other costs that we normally sometimes do not fully take into account, but I'm sure it would possibly be included here. Minister Mzwaledi complains that it's a huge stress on the health system, this issue of road crashes. We normally focus on counting fatalities and not those who get injured, disabled, and so on, that we need to be responded to. So it's got pressures also on government services and resources. Yanka, RTMC drunk drivers, you didn't count them this time. So I will give that over to you with your permission, Ishmael, to RTMC. Yeah.
Okay. CEO, you can talk to the issues of the scheduling as well as the reclassification.
Thank you, Minister, DM, MECs, and colleagues. The issue of this scheduling, yes, it has taken a process, simply because before you reclassify, there are three key processes that you need to be given. The affordability issue in relation to the justice process, the consultation with the public in relation to the rescheduling there too, and over and above the affordability, the human capital that is in there. So that process we have jointly engaged with the Department of Justice. What is now going to be unfolded, it's a process that leads to the consultation with the provinces as well as the public in this process, because that's very key. Remember that also we'll be dealing with the issue of the constitutional right of the individual to have access to the bail and the freedom of the individual. So that process we also expect that it's not going to be a steamrolled over process. It's still going to take us a number of processes to get to that stage. So it might not be appropriate to indicate that you are going to be done by EDCA. The engagement process is going to determine the pace as well as the outcome there too. Finally, it has then go back to parliamentary processes and Parliament to then ensure that we have reclassified the process. The second issue that is raised in terms of the number of the junket drivers that had to be that had been arrested throughout the country over the period starting from the 29th and the 9th. That's the process that we are verifying with the courts now, because before we give the preliminary, we need also to compare our numbers together with the court's appearances that we've dealt with. We'll shortly be giving those numbers with the case numbers.
Thank you very much, DG. Is there any addition you'd like to make?
Not really, except to say that this issue of rescheduling, it is not easy as Advocate Steve is saying. Over and above canvassing it to the public and getting their views, we then still to formulate changes to the prevailing legislation. And that obviously is led by the Department of Justice. But discussions have started at a technical level to deal with those matters. However, it is not something that can be realized even within a year from now. There is quite an elaborate process, including a parliamentary process.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just on an unrelated matter, Minister, is there a way of giving us an indication of how far is the process of renaming the Cape Town International Airport? What days are you considering?
Maybe before the Minister would go to that question, let me just sense if there's any additions that the DM and the MECs would like to make on the reasons for the press briefing. Then the Minister can talk to the issues of the Cape Town International Airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishmael. Maybe on the issue of cost of accidents and incidents to our economy, indeed, it's very costly. I think 2 years ago, we were actually saying it's about 306 billion rand, because that will include, as the Minister indicated, the money that we pay when people die, assist them with funerals, loss of income and all that, but also You have people that get injured who are admitted in ICUs, whose life forever depend on life-saving machines, and we still have to take care of that as the department, but as a country as such. The nurses that we pay as they take care of these people, the operations that happen. When you add all that, you can actually go to that amount, and that is why the minister is actually saying RAF is technically insolvent as we speak because of the cost of this accident. So it's very costly for our economy, and it cannot be allowed to happen because we can use this money for a number of things. 360 is a lot of money, and it can actually be used to develop our people and ensure that we live a better life. Thank you.
Thank you. MEC Grant.
Thank you, Program Director. Just to add to what the Minister and Deputy Minister have said, normally the media don't like to project good news, but I can say as far as alcohol is concerned with drivers' news, the Drager, as well as the random breath testing that was introduced last year, has resulted on provincial of alcohol and roads not mixing. However, we've got to do a lot more work around pedestrians, because too many of our pedestrians in our urban areas are being run over, and that's something which the Minister discussed with us earlier this morning. And we need to work in districts, not only in the rural areas, but with the municipalities, to have more effective means to try and prevent pedestrians from being run over.
Thank you, MEC Bomane.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm hardly covered by the clarification given by the Minister and my colleagues, but what I'm going to emphasize, which seemed to be bearing fruit, and the Minister also emphasized when he was giving us a briefing and in the morning, is the issue of working together with all stakeholders, including yourself, because this is not a responsibility of one stakeholder. If we want to be successful in fighting crime and road safety, working together is very much important. And identify wherever you are, to which role am I playing in order to fight this issue, which is wasting a lot of money for our government, which was supposed to be used in other issues of development. So if we can play a role, all of us, and not look to government, we can benefit a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Tikani, is there any? Thank you very much. Chairperson?
I just want to go back to the scheduling issue, because it is very opposite, and an impression might be created that two ministers preceding Dr. Nzimande have been talking about it. It is indeed a very intricate matter. In terms of the statistics that we have, 89.5% accounts to human factors. And what the risk classification philosophy seeks to achieve is to deal decisively with that human behavior which results to everything else that we've spoken about. Now, the reclassification is aimed at talking to two aspects. One, the ease with which offenders are released on bail soon after the offense or the alleged offense. Secondly, and most importantly, is the issue of sanctioning as consequence management. Now, just to give you a sense, the speedsters that were arrested in KZN and Joburg were released soon after they had been processed at various police stations. So strictly speaking, is anything above 160, you don't issue a ticket, you arrest a person, then they get processed. When that happens, the criminal justice system takes over. It's no longer our law enforcers, our traffic law enforcers. Now, because that type of offense is currently classified as a Schedule 1, or so-called less serious offense, there will be no reason to keep them behind bars without being admitted to bail. So that's the first issue. And even if they are admitted to bail, at the end of their criminal trial, as part of consequence management, there isn't a prescribed minimum sentence, as it were. And in instances where fatalities happen at the hands of someone who is in charge of an instrument, which is a car, there is still a big debate on whether you charge someone who got pissed and knocked over our own traffic law enforcers or innocent pedestrians. Is it murder, culpable homicide? Now, that debate is going to rage for quite some time. However, in the medium to long term, if we were to get the classification right, it will give you two things. One, it will make it more difficult for you to be released on bail. The country went through the same philosophy when it had to reclassify certain types of offenses, armed robbery, murder, and rape. It does not matter what your defense is, but if you are arrested and accused of murder, premeditated murder, you will, as of law, not be released on bail immediately. You have to sit it out for a period of 7 days, and thereafter you have to make a formal court appearance at which the court may or may not release you on bail. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you were to be convicted of premeditated murder, I'm just drawing a hypothesis, the law sets out the prescribed minimum sentence. It does not take away the presiding officer's right to impose a sentence that they may deem fit under these circumstances. But it's at bare minimum, you're looking at 15 years, period. You can negotiate downwards or upwards depending on what happens, but the standardized form of sanction is determined like that. Now, fast forward to what we're trying to achieve here. We are of the view that people who are in charge of cars are in charge of an instrumentality that can potentially commit a crime. We need to try and apply the same standards. So we need to get to a point where if you are arrested at driving 210 kilometers, you should not within 20 minutes be released by a commissioned officer at the police station, which is what currently happens. That's the first thing. So you provide a disincentive. But secondly, because you are now getting into the realm of the judiciary, there is that multidisciplinary consultation that has to happen, because you can't be seen to be encroaching into that space which is reserved for judicial officers. That is why in most instances, a person who, as a result of their drunkenness or the manner in which they drove, takes away the lives of 16 people, they can walk away with a fine or a suspended sentence. And that is the disparity that we are seeking to have addressed. So to the extent that it does take a bit of time, it must be seen in that context. We tried, last year to take a gamble and pilot. When we had an extended long weekend, we tried to effect more arrests on a Thursday, hoping to keep people in the Chuki until the following Tuesday. Because in terms of your current law as it stands, 48 hours, that excludes weekends and public holidays. But we wanted to see how far we could push the envelope. I know for a fact that in one instance, we arrested a well-known footballer on a Thursday. He was rushing to a wedding, and then Friday morning he was out because they brought an urgent high court application. And in terms of the legal framework, we could not justify keeping that person behind bars until the next day. But if we had gotten it right, the message that I was going to go through was that if you got arrested on Thursday, forget, you'll only be released on Wednesday or Thursday the following day. And I thought I should give the media that background so that you understand. It's not just talk show by the ministers, but there are multidisciplinary consultations that are happening. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I will now go back to the Minister to address the issue of the airport. Minister, over to you.
Bulelan, let me start by telling you a short story. After the alleged President Mandela retired, we had a habit with my old friend Nzimande of visiting him at least twice a year, informally at home. That I will just come to see you, how are you, and all that. So around 2007, 2008, we were visiting him somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Limpopo, where he was resting. So I asked him, Dad, you said you wanted to write a book about your period as president of the Republic. How far are you? He simply said to me, Blade, only my enemies ask me that question. Because he knew that it's very complex, because he was getting tired. It's come out now subsequently. So I want to say to you, only my enemies ask me the question that you are asking me. Look, there are a number of names that have been put forward around the renaming of Cape Town International Airport. Some officially, others in the media or in public. So I must just admit that we have started with consultations, and the name that's high up there is the name of Nelson Mandela. But we will have to consider other proposals as well. For instance, there is a proposal around Robert Sobukwe. I'm not sure whether that was officially given to the department, our department, or the Department of Arts and Culture. Then on Saturday, for the first time, then there was also the name of Mandela. So we will have to embark on a process of consultation and see what comes out of that. We are duty-bound, working together with the Department of Arts and Culture. What is not in doubt is that, indeed, Cape Town International Airport will have a new name, maybe sooner rather than later.
This year still.
Huh? What?
Will it be this year still?
We hope so. We hope that it gets done this year. Yes. Because there is a push, and an interest. For instance, if it ends up being one name, one particular name, celebrating 100 years this year, it might be the appropriate year to do so, if that's the name that ends up being number one. By the way, the SACP wanted this to be named after Chrysan, Cape Town. So there are many interests, but we'll go through the process. I'm not preempting anything. Oh, Ishmael, with your permission, I think it is important also that the media assist us. Just in closing, I'm sure we are wrapping up now. As we've had worked together before, we are also approaching another, what will in effect be a long weekend. Long weekend. 27th of April on a Thursday. It's Friday, sorry, and May Day on Tuesday the following week. So to say these messages on road safety are not only for Easters and the festive season, but for periods like those where there is increased movement of people, to say, let's observe the rules of the road. Our report clearly shows that hugely. The causes of road crashes have got to do with human behavior. So we would really like to take that message that let's respect the rules of the road so that we are able to save lives on our roads. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister and members of the media, both in Cape Town and Pretoria. We have circulated the written statement and we'll also send it electronically. Those who are on social media will also find it there, and the Department of Transport social media platforms, including the RTMC social media platforms and all other road entities of the Department of Transport. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much indeed for choosing Morning Live.
But I want to know the basic thing.
Griselda Lewis, SABC News, in Parktown, Johannesburg.
Zimbabwe, Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News, Luanda, Angola.
Let's take a look at your market indicators.